In college, I would collect old tintypes from thrift stores and antique stores, and there's just something really special and unique about these objects. The detail is limitless. There's no grain to this photograph, so you can zoom in and you can see every pore in somebody's face. Holding these old photographs of people that was taken over 100 years ago and seeing all these different faces really magnifies the humanity of people, and is one of the reasons why I was really drawn to this process. My name's Ellen Leathers-Wishart, and this is my studio. I own and operate a mobile tintype portrait studio in Dallas, Texas. A tintype is the second kind of photography ever invented, and I do exactly what they did in the 1850s, where I take a piece of metal and I coat it with chemicals and I expose a portrait on the piece of metal. My lights are modern, but other than that, the process is pretty much the same. I use a camera from the late 1800s and use the same chemical recipes that they did back then. The tintype process is an extremely unique process. It shows a different light spectrum than we're used to, and so we see ourselves in a different kind of light. Reds show up as dark and blues show up as white, so blue eyes show up really white and freckles show up really dark. So the camera I use is a large format 8x10 camera. It's made in the late 1800s by an American company. I bought it off Craigslist in Portland, Oregon. And the guy I bought it from, he told me that he bought it from his photography teacher, who was good friends with Ansel Adams. So apparently Ansel Adams and his photography teacher would go out and shoot with my camera, which is all the more inspiring. All kinds of people come into my studio, all different kinds of backgrounds and ages, celebrating different kinds of things, commemorate a special occasion or anniversaries, birthdays. So I get to share these really intimate experiences and celebrations with these people. When people get their portrait taken in my studio, they get to see how it's made. So I'll take a piece of metal and I'll coat it with a chemical called collodion, and then I soak that in a silver bath for a couple minutes, and while that's happening, I'll set up the lights how I want it. I'll set up the composition of the shot, get them in focus, and then I go back and I load the plate in a film carrier and bring it back to my camera and then expose the plate. 1, 2, 3. After the plate's exposed, I go back into my darkroom and I pour developer on it. Once it's developed and stopped, then I can bring it out into the light. And one of the most exciting parts of the process is the last chemical that I pour on the plate, which is fixer, that changes the plate from a negative to a positive. I get a lot of really exciting and stunning reactions when I pour the fixer on the plates. It'll bring some people to tears, which is always really moving to me. And I've poured thousands of plates, and still every single time it's just as magical. I built the studio from the ground up. I started with a flatbed trailer and framed it out myself. I was looking at possibly remodeling an existing camper, but decided to just build it from scratch, which was really great because I was able to put every single detail in that I wanted. My first teacher in building was Dan Phillips in Huntsville, Texas, who builds houses out of recycled material. And so from that model and just wanting to be as sustainable as possible, I use as many recycled materials as possible in my studio. My floor is old basketball court from a high school. My siding is old shiplap from an old house. And my shooting wall, I did a process called yakisugi, which is a Japanese style of treating wood where basically you just burn the wood. One of my favorite things about tintypes are the imperfections that are inevitable. It's not like digital photography where you can take hundreds of photos. It's really more of like a one-shot deal. They will show a slight funny expression or like an imperfection in the chemicals on the tintype, or something really unique that's really special to that moment. And I love to celebrate the imperfections in every part of life, and tintypes are a great way to celebrate that too.